I'm joined by my client, Steve Whalen, who I think is in the hallway talking to his business partner. Josh Fetterman is also here representing my clients, and Arthur Chu is the project architect. I recognize that there's already been a long agenda before the neighborhood council. We did have a mayor's office sponsored butters meeting immediately prior to this meeting. Before that, this matter had actually been reviewed by a committee of the other neighborhood group. So there have been a couple of meetings and some side conversations with the abutters. This proposal is for the building at 3-5 Quincy Court, which is just off of North Square. It's currently a 3-story building plus a lower level, which is not quite all the way above grade, not quite all the way below grade. It has, we believe, a current legal occupancy, even though it has not been fully inhabited for some time, of 4 dwelling units. My client's proposal is to add a 4th story. Again, this is the lower level, which is partly below grade. Floors 1, 2, 3 existing, at a 4th story mansard level to extend living space into the basement, to create 2 bi-level units on the lower and first floors, 2 units on the second floor, left and right, and then 2 bi-level units on the 3rd and 4th floors. So 2-level unit on the left, 2-unit level on the right. Now, we're not expecting or asking for the neighborhood council to vote on this tonight. The reason being is that we're not ready to go before the zoning board of appeal. We're actually a little bit ahead of the process here, and based upon the meeting that we just had on site with the abutters, we have identified several concerns that we want to continue to address. Nicole Leo sponsored that meeting, or the mayor's office sponsored it. Nicole was there. We're going to have another abutters meeting on site. We'd like to come back before this group, but I just want to identify for the neighborhood council what the issues are. And then, as I said to the abutters, I will actually put this in writing in an email so that we're all on the same page. In short, the number 1 issue is whether there should be any addition to the building. So there was a concern expressed about whether or not the basement space should be extended. Living space should be extended to the basement, whether or not there should be this 4th floor mansard level, number 1. Number 2, a question about the bedroom count. As it's currently proposed, there would be a 3-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, and a 3-bedroom. For 16 total bedrooms, there was concerns that there were too many bedrooms. My client has already been talking to his business partner. We represented it. We'll certainly work on that. We think that we can reduce that with the goal of satisfying the concerns of folks in terms of the number of bedrooms involved in the project. There were concerns expressed about window placements on the top level. Now, people who abut the property have privacy concerns. There are certain requirements in terms of having adequate light and air, particularly for bedrooms, such that we are working both with Boston Redevelopment Authority, the requirements of the building code, and with the abutters in terms of coming up with a satisfactory solution to that. Originally, there were roof decks proposed. The roof decks met with quite a bit of objection from the abutters. The roof decks have been removed, which actually removes one of the violations from the zoning refusal letter. There'll be no roof decks, no recreational space whatsoever on the roof. There was another concern expressed about access to the building in the rear alley. At the rear, there is currently proposed 2 access doors, one on each side of the building, that would essentially be for utility access. My clients are proposing this as a rental property, and they would need independent access to get to the utility areas. The area on the left would actually provide access into one of the units. The abutter in the rear was concerned about that because he just doesn't want to see that rear alleyway used as a means of pedestrian ingress and egress because of the amount of traffic it could potentially create back there, pedestrian. So we're continuing to work on that. And then in terms of the vertical addition, the abutters on the left are here, and their concern there was that their building is essentially a story higher, and if this building were to increase by 1 floor, their children's bedroom is on that side of the building. Their concern is that because of the close proximity at the 4th floor level of the 2 buildings, there would be, I guess, potential for mischief. There would be a means of maybe easily accessing for somebody who wanted to do so to getting over onto your building, and we recognize that that's a concern too. So we're not asking for a vote tonight. This is, again, something that if we had a very productive meeting in terms of the abutters meeting, and it was productive in the sense that there was a good interchange of opinions and concerns, but we haven't reached a point that we have resolved the concerns of the abutters. So we're not asking for a vote tonight. We'd like to come back in between coming back to the neighborhood council to ask for a vote. We will be meeting again with the abutters to try to resolve all of these issues.
Do you have a date for that second meeting?
I haven't set it up. I mean, we literally, Nicole, we haven't, I'm going to talk to Nicole tomorrow, and
we need to move along a little bit further and get the abutters on a better page before we can schedule a meeting.
but I think it would be, prior so that we could come back in May here, I think, Nicole, because we want to move it, I think, forward, hopefully, if we could resolve the concerns.
When do you meet?
May 11th.
11th.
I just think we have to wait to see if the abutters are satisfied.
No, I agree. Oh, before we come back, absolutely. But our goal would be to come back, but we wouldn't commit to that because we don't want to come back and use up the committee's time until we have a resolution. As I said, we had an initial meeting. There were some concerns we thought we addressed with the elimination of the roof deck. Tonight's meeting, there are still some concerns, and we need to work on those.
Phil, can I just,
What's your name and
it's
your address?
Sean Hennessy,
Yep.
187 North Street.
Okay.
I'm one of the trustees of the building. In fact, all of our trustees are here. In fact, many of our residents of 187 are here as well. I want to thank George for working with us, but I just want to be a little more specific on what the concern is. If you go up 1 floor, we're against the 4th floor, that additional floor, because if you go up that floor, it would give someone easy access to jump into our fire escape, and we have a door there that leads into our children's bedroom, and that's one of the concerns, is that it's so close to our kids' bedroom and to our door that goes into our unit. So anyone, I think I emailed your board some concerns.
Yep.
And the pictures, you can see by the pictures that we sent you, just the close proximity of the 2 buildings. That's one concern. The other concern is when you look at the dimension of the units they're proposing, the bedrooms, 9 by 7, 11 by 7, really tiny bedrooms. Our concern of our building is that they're going to be renting out to college students, and because the company has unfortunately a reputation of not being that responsive to their tenants, our concern is, what's going to happen to those tenants who live there who don't get their calls back, and when we have concerns, who's going to answer our call? The reputation of City Realty, unfortunately, if you just go online anyway, it has some room to be improved, and that's our concern. Is you combine that reputation with college students and the close proximity, there are a number of concerns that we have.
Yeah, what's your name and address?
My name is Susan Barbieri Montgomery, and I'm at 187 North Street.
Yeah.
I'm a co-owner with my husband of one of the units in
Okay.
the building. I have 9 things I want to say. Okay.
That's okay.
First thing I want to say, and I know we've already talked to Nicole about this, is we didn't get notice, and there was a sheet flyer in the windshields of the cars on the street. So our building, one person saw it and told the people in our building, but the other buildings, I don't think people have gotten the notice.
Okay.
And I think that's Nicole has addressed that by saying it would be another meeting. My first concern is about occupancy. There's currently no people in that building, and some of you may know, those of you who've been in the neighborhood a long time, longer than me, that for a while there were 2 people in that building, but essentially those 2 buildings have been otherwise unoccupied for decades. So I'm not sure as a legal matter how you take into consideration occupancy versus the fact that the units are there.
Yep.
But I'm trying to deal with reality. So occupancy would go from 0, say 2 people, up to what? Depending on the number of bedrooms and how they showed us last time or this time, how you count them, it could be as high as 32. that would be a huge reality impact of that many more people down a very narrow alley, 60 inches wide.
I can reach further than 60 inches.
Narrow alley, and the alley is 90 feet long. This is at the end of this alley. There's two exit doors, no other exit out of this building. We're worried about fire. How do these people get out? Not something that the fire department's had to deal with for a long, long time. I don't know if they've looked at it, if they care. I'm sure they care. What's the fire equipment access to this building? People can't get out those two doors when they go up. What's the fire equipment access? What's the police and safety feel about having this many more people in one location?
Should ask them. Should ask the police how they feel.
Is that what we should do?
Yeah.
Is that, okay. Okay, so we're coming for your advice. If that's your suggestion, that's what we'll do. Snow clearance, you know, we all know what winter was like. They owned the building. Me, my husband, the other people in the building, we hand shoveled that alley out. They never showed up. They never showed up. So for our rear access, we hand shoveled that out. Right? I mean, we didn't even have the other butters cooperation on that either. I'm not saying it's just them. The impact of the increased occupancy isn't just on us, we're on the other side of this alley. It's also on the entire neighborhood. We have trash, so it's that many more barrels, where they're gonna be kept, and they're all gonna be lined up where? When there's trash time, and who's gonna take them back? It's a lot of barrels. Right? We already have a problem with 2 barrels that get left in the alley all the time. We have, on pickup days, that's gonna be blocking street access the way it's, because there's a big tree right there. Car parking. How many more cars are that? I mean, you know, there's people in this room, I feel like I'm speaking to the choir, I think is the right phrase, but, you know, I would bring groceries home. 80% of the time, I double park. Raise in, put them in the lobby, go up and park the car, leave my groceries or whatever I had to put unattended in the lobby. Same thing the other way around. Now you're adding 24 to 32 more people on an alleyway that's heading up. What's that gonna do to the parking? And the businesses as well. There's restaurants in that neighborhood. They care about that as well. And I don't think we've heard how that's going to be addressed, whether they're entitled to a variance adding these units and not have to provide parking. The impact in the increased occupancy is also a concern we have about renters, and I know Sean has already mentioned this, and we've already acknowledged there are concerns that this is going to be a rented building. It's not going to be an owned building. So we're concerned about noise. We're concerned about renting to students, and everybody in the neighborhood knows what happens when you get numerous students and units. We're also worried about the lack of tenant involvement. When you have the 2 buildings full of people and they're not owners, how are they going to treat the neighborhood? How are they going to take care of cash? How are they going to take care of snow removal? Same thing. It just makes us more concerned. None of these things were addressed, and we're concerned that it's too soon for the neighborhood to pass on this and say we understand enough. And there hasn't been enough notice, and we want more information, and we'll take your advice about asking the cops and anybody else.
All right, so now we've heard from both sides. Does anybody else on council have any questions? We'll open up and have a chance to respond. Yeah.
I have a concern about the 3 bedrooms. I'm a property manager, so I know what 3 bedrooms is in progress. And I don't have any college kids. We have business people, and there are a lot of 3 bedrooms.
Right, and for my part, I would just say that, you know, we did address a number of these issues, and we'll continue to address them. I know that the concerns that you just raised were all, you know, expressed, and we're certainly going to get back, and we're not asking for a vote tonight. You know, I started the presentation by suggesting that. The other thing is that, you know, we're not talking about a new structure. I mean, there's a building there. We're not talking about 0 occupancy as opposed to something. There's a building there. We understand that the 3 bedroom units are concerned, and I've already had conversations with Steve Whalen about that, and I think that we're pretty close to being able to commit to you know, 2 bedroom units here, because we know what a concern it is to the community, to the neighbors, to the abutters. So I don't want to belabor the point, but We will address all of these issues. We're not asking for a vote tonight. We're going to continue to work on these issues.
Maybe the three apartment thing, the three bedroom thing, I know a lot of small families in the neighborhood that are looking for it, so there's two sides to that.
Exactly. It's very speculative. You know, you could say, 24 students. It could be something totally different. I could argue that, but it's not a point that should be argued because nobody knows.
Could I?
Right.
Okay. Are you guys looking to, would you be willing to rent this, like short-term rentals, Airbnb and stuff like that? You have problems with that?
I don't think so. Right? This will just be traditional leasing. Do you want to talk a little bit? I mean, it's up to the board. I don't know what you want to do. I mean, Steve Whalen is actually one of the owners to talk about what the rental model is or would be for these buildings.
Give us a couple, we have some more
Sure.
questions.
Yeah, certainly.
Just because I live in this area, and I'm aware that most of the buildings in that zone were originally for commercial use. Was this building built originally as a residence, or was it converted at one point from warehouse use, which is the vast majority of buildings on Richmond and Fulton, and all the kind of adjoining streets?
I don't know, but I'll research it. I suspect that it was a residential building, but I probably shouldn't say anything until I confirm that. I'd have to go back and look at the building jacket. I'll get an answer to that and let you know to Phil, when I memorialize what I presented to start off tonight's meeting.
Can you answer that?
Jeff, you? Oh, it's been, yeah, that's what I suspected.
And what does the occupancy say on the jacket right now? You guys have to look at it. Anybody who buys a building looks at it.
Right.
Is it one family, two family, three family?
Two, three.
Two,
Separated by a firewall.
So two family?
2, 3 families.
2 or 3 families?
Yeah.
Okay.
but the zoning refusal letter says change occupancy to 6. And I would suggest that this isn't unusual. Sometimes even at ISD, there are conflicting long form records. So,
How old are the records?
the records are quite old. So, I mean, I think what you look at is whether or not it's 2 3s, if it was changed from 4 to 6 units at some point, and whether that use lapsed over 24 months of non-use. So I don't mean to evade the answer, but I think the answer is somewhat ambiguous. It's certainly a 4-unit building. It's potentially a 6-unit building. It's subject to some interpretation based upon the zoning code and the fact that it's a non-conforming use as a multifamily in a community commercial district. So obviously a non-conforming use after 24 consecutive months of non-use reverts back to the last previous legal conforming use that would predate Article 54. So it's a little bit complicated. I'm not trying to be evasive. It's out of 4 or 6 units legally.
But this building, obviously, the level of renovations would be fully sprinkled.
Fully sprinkled, yes, absolutely. And that was another issue which I mean, it would require taking up Quincy Court for some time to actually run the sprinkler system in. So that was another issue actually that I didn't mention, that there would be some disruption to the people. Anthony Virgilio would be the contractor. I think everybody's familiar with Anthony. He does a lot of work in the neighborhood. And he unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, but what he said that he would do the job that he usually does to make sure that everybody is aware of construction schedules and the fact that there would be as minimum a level of disruption as possible.
What condition is the building in now? Abandoned, second abandoned?
It's horrible.
Horrible is the answer.
Any other questions on the council?
Mr. Shirashi?
Jeff, what's your name and address?
Jeff Sorosky, 173 North Street. This building abuts my property, and the gentleman discussed earlier the alley. I just want to make a clarification. That alley is below ground level to the park behind our building. There is a fence there. There is no access to that alley or egress from that alley to anywhere. There is a door that goes into Ricardo's restaurant, but to get out of that alley, it's about a 7-foot drop from there to the base of the alley. As I mentioned earlier to this gentleman, what concerns me is if they put an egress for both those units, being that it's going to be an absentee rental property, what I don't want to have happen is that it becomes, we have no roof decks, but now we have a patio deck in the back. Why, I don't understand, the gentleman, the architect said to me that it would be only used for utilities, but there's no way of getting into that alley unless you come through the unit. There's no steps going from the park down into the alley, there's a fence there. They would either have to put a ladder up, which I've had to do in the past to clear the drain that's down there, and then come back down with a ladder to get into that alley. So the only way for you to get into that alley is through your building.
I understand. And as I said, Jeff raised this concern and we'll look into it. I don't know whether it was a question, Arthur, of providing access in between, at that level. We're not sure, quite frankly, but we'll look into it, for whatever reason that was put in there. And I now actually understand your concern better, because you don't want people sitting out there.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
My concern at this point, when we started with the roof decks, is to try to minimize any problems that could arise that we've all seen happen down here in the past 10 years. So, and again, that's why my other concern is about the amount of bedrooms. I understand you said families. I don't know how many families are going to be going into bedrooms that are 8 by 9 I own property, and an abundance of people that realtors bring to me are students. And the first question they ask me is, we have 2-bedroom apartments, can we have 4 people in there? The answer is no. So, when you were discussing about the amount of bedrooms, I wish I could say that there are more families moving back into the neighborhood. But, I'm a realist, and I'm telling you, that's not what I see. Now, maybe everybody else in this area sees something different, and they just migrate to my building. I don't know. But the majority of people that we get to rent are young professionals that are just finishing school, first job, and that's what we're getting. So, it's a major concern, I think, for everybody in this room.
We have an excellent understanding of the concerns, and as I said, our goal is to reach consensus on as many issues as possible, and hopefully to be able to stand before the neighborhood council at the next meeting and detail for you what issues that my clients have made continue additional concessions on, and hopefully we'll move forward at that point. But we do get it. We get it.
And just one more thing, that obviously parking. Let's just say you have 16 bedrooms. That's going to be another 8 to 10 cars minimum, maybe more. And so there's already not enough parking to do it. You guys know the issue. So it's just a density issue.
Just one more.
I'm Vivian Hennessy, and parent of the 2 kids here. And I know that you are thinking of doing duplexes, and I know it's an investment, and I don't want to crowd on that, but we also need to understand those bedrooms are small, and being a parent of 2 kids bring a lot of stuff. And there's no way that a family is going to move into those small apartments. It's just, I'm being realistic. I know how it is to live in an apartment with 2 young children. They come with a lot of toys and a lot of things, et cetera, et cetera. My concern is that there's going to be young people moving in, even kids that are graduating from college, and there's been times, as I've told you before, that I've seen kids on the roof. There may not be a roof deck, but they still hang out on the roof, drinking, and that's a high level of my children's bedroom. Something that I'm not comfortable with. And aside from that, I'm also not comfortable with the fact that the addition is going to be so close to not only the balcony, but there's a door that's easily accessible to our children's bedroom. That I have a problem with. And I know that that's an investment, obviously, that you made, sir, Steve, but it's something that's a concern to me, and I need to speak up now before anything starts being built, because it's directly affecting, they're building on top of our kids. I mean, we're not talking about yards, we're speaking of feet away from the kid's bedroom and access to their bedroom.
As I said, I think just in the conversation I had with Steve on the walk over here from Quincy Court, I think I can say authoritatively that the bedroom count is going to drop. I mean, I've had that conversation already with Steve, so we'll certainly work on that and come back with a different proposal. And Susan, I think you're the
I don't know.
I'm sorry, not to.
You'll do the last one.
I just had one question that occurred to me while we were talking. So this building has 3 floors now that are divided walls in there and stuff. I don't know when somebody lived in it, but there are 3 floors that were at some time apparently occupied. So this plan, as I understand it, is to take the basement and turn that into rental space as well as adding a floor. And I was wondering whether the fact that you're taking the basement and trying to turn it into residence is the reason why you need to find some utility access somewhere else. And can't that all be done in the basement now? Is that where?
It is, the utility, the utility space is all in the basement. The footprint of the building is not being expanded, the utility space is there. Again, this just goes back to the issue of whether or not the rear of the building needs to be accessed from the alleyway, which is sub-grade in the rear.
But if you didn't take over that basement, if you left it as a basement, then maybe you wouldn't have to do that. If you left it as the 3 floors, and you just used those 3 floors, then maybe you wouldn't have to do that.
Short answer is I don't think, and take this for the way it's offered, I don't think it matters. I think that it was done as a convenience in terms of the access between buildings, in terms of, since there would, it's in common ownership, access between buildings for servicing the utilities without having to go out the front, and that's something that could change. And that's something that could change.